Okay, who wants to start the ball rolling? First question.
Hi, afternoon, Ajahn. There's a question about being contented. But if, let's say, my role is a salesperson, and you're selling, pushing for some investment, and there's some form of greed somehow, Yeah, either you project that or the customer might actually demand that, So how do we strike a balance about contentment? I mean, I can be contented, but my role, my KPI doesn't allow me to be contented. So in this case, how do I strike a balance? Should I just change a job? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there is time and place, and also you could be content in your personal life. But also, if you have a job, and your job, part of the responsibility is to increase the sale, so you would increase. But you wouldn't have to increase, 25% all the time. You just do enough in line, maybe 10 or 15% or something every year, and not have to be the best salesperson there. So you just do it, just enough to obviously to keep your job. Yeah. Also, but yeah, and after a while, if you feel that the job that you're doing is not fulfilled, you want to do something more Dhamma related, then it's also okay to change to another job where you find more fulfillment, more commitment as well. Yeah, for sure. But that's a decision that we all can make individually by ourselves, depending on our circumstances. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. Another question. Can a Buddhist invest in stock market? I'm talking about stock investment. I'm not talking about speculation. This is money talk. I think from your experience, is there a line where you can invest, which you can take care of your retirement, but yet at the same time, how we know what is enough? Because the tendency to get more is there.
Sure, the tendency is to more. I mean, sometimes there is this belief that Buddhists or practitioners shouldn't be too greedy, that you shouldn't invest anything that makes money. It's not true. You can generate wealth. You can sell things to make more money. It's what you do with the money that is the difference. And the Buddha suggests that if you are well off, then you spend 30% of your wealth on your family and friends, taking after them, 30% on charity outside, and 30% you keep for yourself, to look after your own personal needs. And that's what the Buddha recommended. But also, each and every one of you, you can reflect on that and see what is, what you need, and what you can also give back to society as well. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with creating wealth, as long as you know that you can't take it with you. So you might as well use the wealth that you have for some social good or some communal good. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
And it doesn't hurt to make a donation to the Buddhist Fellowship.
Thank you, Ajahn. Any from this side?
Ajahn, can I just ask for some of us who are stuck in our meditation, sometimes, because in Theravada practice, sometimes there are like achievement levels. You must get stream winner in this life, must get non-return or whatever. Then, so then if we feel we are stuck in our meditation and we can't go any further, how do we break out of this cycle? Like every day is the same distracting thoughts and then you don't seem to get further? Thank you, Ajahn.
What?
watching YouTube videos and TV.
Yes, because we live in a world that is lots of things moving, happening, and the mind moves a lot. So it is hard for the mind, when you do come to meditate, to be really, really still. So a lot of that is just acceptance. Just, okay, at the moment, with all the stuff that you're doing, with family, jobs, and different things, the mind can only be like this. But it doesn't have to be a problem. If the mind doesn't want to be still, you just watch the thoughts. Watch the thoughts come and go, and it feels like this. Yeah. You can also make changes to your daily routine. Maybe watch half an hour less of YouTube or something. Not be kind of be on your phones and computer, your laptop more than necessary. Starting to put some limits around that. Maybe you don't look at it an hour or two before bedtime. Maybe you don't look at it half an hour before meditation. You sit quietly, have a cup of tea or something, or do some stretching before you meditate. If you're just playing with your computer and you put it down, you meditate, then of course, when you put the thing down, the mind still moves around, because that's what it's been doing all day long. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn. Questions? You can ask Dhamma questions, Sutta questions, meditation questions. Oh, there, okay.
Lottery numbers.
Lottery numbers.
Ajahn,
Yes.
I have friends telling me that you can get enlightenment without going through meditation. In other words, you don't have to go into jhana. So I'm a bit confused, because I always think that you have to meditate to get into jhana, to get into Dhamma, enlightenment. At least first stage, to get into stream entry, you need to get into jhana, the first jhana. So what are your views?
I think technically speaking, you don't need to get to a jhana to become enlightened. But these days, there are many enlightened people on the internet. And there's many things. There's pills you can take, there's cushion you can sit on to get you enlightened really quickly. And I'm not so sure whether that is the real thing. And but if people do things and they think it works for them, yeah, all the more power to them. But I'm just not so convinced that these enlightened beings are truly enlightened, and that and like the Buddha said, though, it's hold your judgment. Do not believe or disbelieve them, but you have to know them. That the Buddha said, but you think that teacher's enlightened, you go and live with them for 7 years. And then you make up your mind. Yeah, because on the internet, on YouTube, on the Zooming, it's easy to give good talks. It's easy to be convincing for an hour. But when you go live with them, you'll see how they're easy to live with. Or it's all talk. Yeah. So I've met many people who gives a really good talk. But then when you live with them, you're like, it's very different. Than what happens on the Dhamma talk or what happens on the YouTube. Yeah. But like I said, you just hold your judgment, you put what they teach into practice, and see if that works for you or not. But I met a large amount of people who declare their enlightenment to me, especially young ones. In Australia, especially ones that have been taking a lot of drugs. They feel it. They feel it. It's something mind-altering. Yeah, but I'm not sure it is mind-altering, but I'm not sure it's mind-altering in the Dhamma way. Yeah.
Some of us say that chanting, just chant, and you can also get into deep, deep state of stillness?
I mean, sure, it is a type of stillness. Certainly much better. Yeah, it's comparable to going around daily life, talking and managing things. So when you focus your mind into chanting, there is a deep state, but it's a jhana is even much deeper than that. Yeah. But it is beneficial. The chanting is beneficial, but I'm not sure the chanting by itself will get you to enlightenment. Also, what they define as enlightened. Because then many people read, I just read the books in different people, and they say, enlightenment, and then the ecstasy of enlightenment, and then the laundry. So when you become enlightened, and then you still get depressed, you still get sad, still get angry. So I'm not sure whether what they call enlightenment is the same as what the Buddhist sense of enlightenment is, what the Buddha talked about. Yeah, there are many different levels of spiritual attainment, and that's where it is good to have a teacher. When you think you have experienced something different, something unusual, it's good to check with the teacher, and not just go on what your thinking, your feeling is. Yeah, because I hear all the time, Ajahn, I think I'm enlightened. I don't need a teacher. I just need a place to practice. And I tell them, no, this place is a place for people who wants teaching. If you don't need a teacher, you just keep on going, keep on moving. You just find a tree in the forest and go practice then.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Hello, Ajahn.
Yes.
I want to ask, if let's say we still have fear or worry in our mind, does it mean we don't have enough faith in the Dhamma? And second question, what can we do to reduce our fear? Thank you.
First is to accept that fear is normal. Unless you're fully enlightened, there'll be some type of fear. And also it's expression of our attachment. And everybody's attached to their body. So that's why when you go into the dark, you're afraid someone in the back of you is going to harm you. Because that just means you're attached to your body, attached to your health. Yeah. So it's normal to have fear. And it's also a protective mechanism for the body. Because when you go in the dark, you can't see anything. And you hear noises. Then, of course, it wants to protect the body. So the senses will start to think and worry and be activated to look around to make sure that the body can be protected and be safe. So it's also a biological protection for human beings, for animals, everything. Yeah. So that's part of that is genetically programmed. But also when you feel fear, anxiety, instead of thinking about all the things that generate more fear, I would advise people to focus your awareness on the body. Usually when you're afraid, there's a tension somewhere in the chest, your stomach, your abdomen. And focus on that and relax that. Relax that first. There's two things. One is that it short-circuit the overthinking mind that's thinking, oh my God, this person's behind me. Oh, maybe it's that escape convict. Maybe there's a rapist around the corner. Maybe this and that. The other stuff, it makes you more worried. If you focus on the body, you're not thinking about that. So allows the mind to calm down a little bit. And then when you're nervous, your body is tense. And the more tense your body is, the more it generates a feeling of fear and anxiety. So by calming the body, you're not thinking about fear-generating reasons, and you're calming the body. So it allows the mind to calm down as well. So go to the body, feel deep breaths. And also remind yourself, the last time I was fearful like this, nothing happened. Just a little cat on the roof, just a cat behind me, looking for something to eat. Yeah, so just remind yourself like that, yeah. But also to know that it's normal. Fear will come up from time to time. Yeah, it's part of the human existence to have fear, anxiety. Yeah, just work with it slowly. Just go to the body, calm the body down. And sometimes just when you feel fear, you can also challenge it. You hear a noise outside, get a flashlight and go outside and see what happens. see if this ghost or not. Or a cat. So usually it's just a cat, a mouse, or something. Yeah. Or just a branch. Sometimes the wind, the branches just, it just brushes against the building. You're like, oh, someone's out there. Someone's out there. Just a branch brushing against your house.
Her last question is how to increase faith.
Increase faith, the true way to increase faith is through practice. So the deeper your meditation is, then the more you experience what the Buddha talked about. The more you experience what the Buddha talked about, then the more you know that what he's talking about is true, that you can see it for yourself, can feel for yourself, experience it. So you know, okay, the Buddha knew exactly what he's talking about. So remember in the Pali, the word faith and confidence is the same word. So it's not just faith, it's confidence. You have confidence in what the Buddha taught because you've tasted yourself. You experience those states they talk about. Let's say you have a jhana just once. That's all you need to have faith increases tenfold when you have a good meditation. Because you realize, yeah, what the Buddha said is true. Amazing bliss that I never thought possible. I experienced it myself. So you're not reading about it, not thinking about it, not hearing about it, but really experience it yourself. Then your faith increases. But until then, a bit of education, a bit of reading, a bit of understanding the Dhamma, putting the Dhamma into practice as well. The Buddha says, when I let go, I feel happier. Simplify my life, I feel happier. So you try to do that. You try to live a simple lifestyle, live a harmless lifestyle, not to hurt any beings. You don't swat the mosquitoes, you brush it off, you take it outside. You don't step on the ants, you brush it, take it outside. And then you feel, oh yeah, I feel much better. Because you don't feel like you're harming things around you. Sure, you're not perfect, but at least the mind is inclining towards gentleness, towards kindness. And that, it gives you a feeling of oh yeah, living this life is worthwhile. Yeah, so then faith increases naturally as well. Yeah. Going to the 4 holy places, that's also helpful if you get a chance. But just 4 places, okay? Not 12.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Ajahn, somebody say if there's no jhana, there's no wisdom. Is it correct to say that? I mean, to get the wisdom in the Buddhist perspective, you have to get into jhana.
I think that's a bit too drastic and too, because then it's set up that dichotomy. If you meditate and you're not getting jhana, then you must just wasting your time. But that's not true, because for every time that you get into jhana, you spend hundreds of hours or maybe tens of hours outside of that. You're not getting it. But it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means each meditation is contributing to the next one. It's like, when you're a sculptor, you have to go through 10 or 20 pieces of wood to get one good statue. Does that mean that the 20 statues that you did, you just wasted your time? No, each of those times you do something wrong, it contributed to your learning process of getting things closer and closer. So that's why I don't like to speak specifically about jhana in that way. I just say samadhi, and there are many types of samadhi. Yeah, as long as the mind is calm, you use that to contemplate existence. Yeah, and jhana itself doesn't allow wisdom to arise. After the jhana, you contemplate, and that's where the wisdom comes from. It doesn't come automatically from jhana. When you're inside the jhana, the mind is not moving. There's no thinking, so there's no wisdom. Definitely not. It's only when you use the jhana to contemplate the 3 characteristics of existence, that's where wisdom arises. But if you don't use the jhana to contemplate, no wisdom. Yeah, so it's not automatic in that way.
So in other words, you still have to get into jhana before you can.
No, you don't need to get to jhana to contemplate. As long as the mind is peaceful, for you to contemplate about a certain theme, you start with that. And then the more you contemplate, the more it calms the mind down. And the more the mind calms down, you can contemplate. So use contemplation and samadhi to support each other. That's what Luang Tam Mahabua said. Contemplation supports samadhi, and samadhi supports contemplation. They work hand in hand. It's like your right hand, your left hand working together to carry something. Yeah. So contemplation helps samadhi, because the more deeply you see into the nature of reality, the letting go happens naturally. And the more you let go, the more still the mind is. The more still the mind is, the deeper you see, and the less you attach. If you see that you see clearly that you're going to die anyway, that you cannot carry anything, then of course you don't attach. It's the fact that we don't see clearly, we don't remember clearly that we're all going to die, that we attach to our family, we attach to our possessions, we attach to our views and opinions. But if you know and you see clearly that these things are not yours, you don't attach. You say something, people argue, you don't get bothered. Okay, that's fine. I think I'm right, but of course you think you're right too. So no point getting into a heated argument. We're all going to die anyway. So there's no point getting angry over these little things. So it's easier to let go. So the more clearly you see, the easiest to let go. And the more you let go, the more still the mind is. So they work hand in hand. Contemplation, wisdom, and samadhi works hand in hand together to get deeper and deeper.
Yeah, Ajahn, if you let go a lot, like what you say, then your family members who are not Buddhists will think that something has gone wrong with you. Why suddenly, you don't want to participate in a lot of things.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? Yeah. So how can you reconcile things like this?
You have to let go with wisdom. That means when you have a family, you cannot let go right away. I've had people come, Ajahn, I want to come to the monastery, but I still have 12-year-old kid here. Can I just let go of my kid? It's like, no, you can't let go of your kids. You have them, man. You got to look after them. Go home. Go home and look after them. You can't be in the monastery meditating. Go home, look after your kids. Look after your wife. You married her, and you brought these kids into the world. So letting go, that type of letting go is irresponsible. You have to do your duties first. Yeah, you have to do your duties as a husband, as a father, as a son, as a person with family and relationship and commitments. And once you finish that, then you can let go. Then you can meditate. You can't meditate without doing your duties first. And I think they wouldn't agree. Yeah, so I do tell people that, no, it's your choice. It's your vipaka, the result of your karma. You got married, so now you got to look after your wife and look after the kids. Your kids didn't ask to come to this world. You brought them to this world. So now you have to make sure that you at least look after them until they're 18. And then after that, you can see the opportunity arises or not. And also, the practice, looking after your kid, looking after your wife, is a practice. It doesn't mean you're watching the breath only. Making sure they're happy, making sure they're well cared for, is a practice. And something that increases your spiritual qualities. Patience, generosity, kindness, compassion. It's just not about, watching the breath all day long. No, that's not how it works. Yeah. So I do try to people remind them. We don't say, every time everybody goes to the monastery, that's a good thing. Depends why you go into a monastery. You go to a monastery because you want to escape from your wife and kid? No, it's not. It's not a good reason to go to a monastery. And I do get people to do that. Even Thai ladies come into, you got to go home and look after your kids. You got that. No, Buddha said let go. No, it's not time to let go yet. You got to wait till these kids, grow up first. Then you can let them go. Because some of them, the husbands come and complain to me, my wife never cooks for me this kind of food. They just cook for the monks. I just get the leftover. So I tell them, no, you got to go and look after your husband too.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ajahn. I'd like to ask how can we help family members or friends who are very addicted to alcohol, even though it has affected their health, but yet they do not want to change. Because when facing this kind of difficult situation, I find that sometimes I try to accept the situation, but yet I find that it's like ignoring the problem, the issue, and sometimes it can get very helpless because the alcohol has affected their health, but yet they do not want to change and still want to continually be addicted to these substances. So I would like to ask what are the qualities and the right mindset to have when handling these kind of situations.
Yeah, that is a tough one, because when people are addicted to these substances, alcohol or drugs, and they don't want to get any help, there's not a lot you can do. It's only when they want help that they will seek and change their life. But until then, talking to them, trying to force them to get help, yelling at them, getting angry at them, it's not going to help. So my suggestion is just be a good sister or be a good friend to them. Just tell them, I'm here to help you. I'm not going to help you to get your alcohol and drugs, but if you need anything else, you let me know. I'm here to help. And when you're ready, you want to change your life, then I will be around to help you. But if you're still addicted to alcohol, then I'm going to keep my distance. I can't do much about. But maybe if they have kids, then you can say, well, try to help out with the kids where you can. Because sometimes it is very messy when people are addicted to these things. They steal things, take your money, and they borrow, they never return, and all sorts of terrible breaking the precepts when people are addicted to these things. But that's just the way it is. So as a person, you have to look after yourself as well. You don't want to want to help them to the point where you're starting to suffer and your family life starting to suffer over that as well. But so you have to be careful in that way. But you also want to be open and to be ready to help when they're wanting help. Until then, yeah, you have to practice equanimity. I wish you well. I want to help. But if you don't want my help at the moment, then I'm not going to give. Yeah. So sometimes it's very painful to watch, but that's all you can do. Because if they don't want help, the closer you try to get, the more you might harm yourself as well in the whole process, or your family. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ajahn.
Okay, great. Yeah, like the story, in monastery, we get a lot of, shall we say, borderline, bipolar people, a bit schizophrenic, and we try to be open. And my criteria is that everybody's got issues. So your issue is that you hear voices or something, or you're socially anxious, so you can't be around too many people, and that's fine, as long as you do not affect others. As long as you don't get into a fight in the kitchen, you don't fight with other people, as long as you don't disturb other people's practice, then we're willing to let you stay and you do the best you can. Maybe you don't go to all the morning meetings, that's okay. Maybe you can't do all the chores because you're just, too distracted to do that, and that's okay. As long as, we give you a place to live. Because sometimes they come and they don't have anywhere to go. Their parents don't want them, they're homeless, so they kind of come and say, I want to be Buddhist. I want to stay for a while. But if you are having suicidal tendency, you tell me that you want to kill yourself, or you want to hurt other people, then we have to ask you to leave, or we have to call the ambulance or call the police, because we don't have the facilities to look after people who are that sick. So it's always a fine line as well, that you want to be compassionate to these people who need help. But you also have to have compassion to the community, to your family, to people that are around them, that if they're disturbing other people, then you need to also protect your family as well. So that's what I mean. So it's good to have compassion, but it's time and place to use wisdom. Does not just be a completely open book. Yeah. So sometimes we let people stay, but if they're too disruptive, then we say, we just can't have you because you're just too disruptive to other people. So you get into arguments too much in the kitchen. You have issues or whatever. So it's always, trying to approach things with an open mind, but also with wisdom, that is not letting people do whatever they want. It's not always compassion as well. Yeah. But you have to see whether they can be helped, or they want to be helped first. If they don't want to be helped at the moment, there's not a whole lot you can do. Then you need to keep your distance to protect yourself and your family as well. Yeah, so it's not like you can move a drug addict into your home because, oh yeah, it's a compassion that you do. They might, mess up the whole place. Yeah, and they might, kind of threaten your family as well because they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, so it's good to use wisdom and common sense when trying to help others as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Hello, me again. Since you're on this topic about disruptive people, I also think that sometimes as we get more and more cancer patients in the community, how can we reach out to them? Because we don't have people trained to help cancer patients. But on the other hand, we have people who want to opt not to take chemotherapy. I don't know where my question is going to lead to, but perhaps you can interject and tell me how you cope with cancer patients who come to you, or how the Buddhist community can reach out to them. Because once a lady here said to me, why don't you have any cancer support here in BF? The Christians have it, you don't have it. Are you looking after us? So can you? Yeah, we're not hospital, that's true. But I think they're looking for emotional support or something like that.
Well, I think it's good to be clear what your boundaries are, what your capabilities are, and whether you have the volunteers in place to do that. Yeah. Otherwise, the same. Sometimes we have people who are homeless, but we're like, we're not a homeless shelter. You just can't come in because we're for meditator. If you come in and you don't know how to meditate, you disturb the other meditator. So compassion goes not just to the person who looks like they need it. Compassion also goes to the rest of the other community members who are also in your community. So it's the same with the charity services that you offer. If you have the resources, then you can offer those services. But if you try to overdo and stretch your volunteer and get them to do too much, then you burn them out. Then it's not helpful for the center as well. So I think with the cancer outreach program, it's not something you check with your committee, with the group, and you can come up for discussion and to see whether you have the manpower, the training, the resources to offer the services. Until then, we just have to focus on what you already do, what you do well already to offer. And maybe you can also research that government resources that you can refer to people to. Just, maybe we don't offer counseling, but there is another Buddhist center that specializes in this, or even a Christian center that specializes in this. Why don't you go and check with them, and if they have these kind of resources available? Yeah. So those are the things that you can do without expanding your services at the moment. Like sometimes a few years back, we had an issue with places for nuns, and our monastery is not set up for nuns yet. But it only took a bit of research to know what other monasteries are out there that for ladies to go to train at. So when we have somebody who wants to become a nun, who wants to become a bhikkhuni, we tell, well, why don't you contact these people? And they have the facility ready. Contact Dhammasara in Perth, or contact Santi. And you can come and stay with us for a couple of months, but we just don't have the facility at the moment. And these other places do provide that service. And that's fine. So people are happy to also get the referral as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. Any other questions?
Hi, Ajahn. I have friends that thinks that Buddhism is about emptiness. So, as a lay person, how do I explain emptiness in a simple way to them? Yeah, and how actually because emptiness is quite abstract. So yeah, in a way I don't know how to explain to them. Yeah.
No, I think you just explain to them that is Buddhism is a path of increasing happiness, and emptiness plays into that is the less you have, then the less stress you have in your life. Yeah, so it's also a gradual path. So it starts with, like I said, slowing down, simplifying your lifestyle, moving from diversity to simplicity, and then to singularity, to oneness, and then to emptiness. So you can't go from being distracted and go to emptiness right away. So it's going through stages, and it's going to increasing sense of simplicity and increasing sense of happiness and fulfillment. Yeah, so that's kind of the more practical explanation of emptiness. But on a more theoretical level, you can just point to them like the idea of modern physics. Modern physics says we're just a bunch of molecules floating around, that we're 99.9% empty. Yeah, so this body looks solid, but it's just a bunch of molecules floating around, that you will look closely, there's nothing there. So that's similar to the idea of emptiness in Buddhism, that we're not really anything solid. We're just, four elements coming and disbanding over time. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn, do you have any ghost stories to tell? Since no one has any questions more.
Ghost stories. I did see something in the morning around here. Is there a ghost? Is there a ghost around here?
Did you really, or just imagination?
Well, that's the thing about the ghost, right? You're never sure, right? You never know whether the mind's playing trick on you or whether it's somebody walking around. No, but also, like I said, I always come from a common sense perspective. That most of the part, ghosts can't do anything to you, right? Because if, imagine all the people that's been killed in the war, if they could come back and hurt the other people, they would, but they can't. Yeah. So ghosts are just like, more like shadows in the shadow world. They can't, and they usually are caught up on their own mental issues anyway, to affect anybody else. Yeah. Like when I was, this has to do with Wat Buddha Dhamma. When I came to Wat Buddha Dhamma, there was lots of ghost stories. And actually, Wat Buddha Dhamma is even featured in ghost stories of Australia, because the area that the monastery was founded, it was also a famous area for the Aboriginals. And back then, there was a lot of conflict. So there was a lot of killing around the monastery. So people do see different, beings moving around. There was a report, one lady who was staying there, old lady, she said, "Oh, there's a guy with a striped pajamas walking. Did you see him?" It's like, "No." But what she described, she doesn't know that. She's, Asian lady. But what she's describing was the convict's uniform of the convict. He was, and then she saw him walking around at night, she said. Yeah. So there's different, but personally, I never felt any kind of malevolent like evil feeling in the monastery. If anything, I felt very supported, very, very blessed, being that whatever is there seems to be very supportive of the monks being there. They seem to be really happy to have the monks there. Yeah. So I always get that feeling. But other people, they say they meditate in the silence. When they close their eyes, they see this big ogre, there's a Tibetan monster with big fang, dripping blood behind them. But I never felt any like that.
Thank you, Ajahn. Oh, another question from sister there. Another one. Okay, now after hearing ghost stories, you'll have questions.
You tell me your ghost stories.
Hi, Ajahn. Might be related to that. Because our Chinese culture, we have the 7 month, where we pray to our ancestor. So, ever since I understand the Buddhist concept, there's rebirth and all that. So when our parents, grandparents, or forefather pass on, is there really a need to do this, like the ritual? How do we reconcile? Because my mom, she still believes in the old tradition. But as a Buddhist, there comes my duty to her or my duty to my ancestor. Or is there a conflict with Buddhism if I get involved in the ritual?
Not entirely. There's something similar in this way. That when you die, you do get reborn in a different realm. But if you're basing your attachment, a ghost realm is a different realm. So when you become a ghost, you are taking rebirth already. But you're taking rebirth into a ghost realm because you are, usually most people take that initially because they're attached to their family. They still want to hang around, check whether the kids are okay, my wife is okay, my kids are okay. So they hang around for, a few days, a few hours, a few weeks. The 49 days is a rough estimate. It just comes through a story, but it's not, doesn't mean that everybody stays around for 49 days. They can, stay around for much longer or much shorter. Depends on their attachment to the place and to their family. Yeah, so there is something, but generally people do stay around for a few days to a few weeks. And that's where I was saying earlier that doing the forgiveness ceremony is very powerful because it reminds the person that you're dead, that we're okay, you're not here anymore, you're dead, but we're fine. Please forgive us if we irritate or annoy you, but also we forgive you if you've done anything that is annoyed and irritated us. And that way allows both parties to move on. So that way you remind the ghost that they're not there anymore and that it's time for them to move on to another destination. Yeah, so you can do those acts. I'm not saying, the burning houses and the cars, you don't really get that in the other realm and you don't need it. But you can make offerings in their name. You can donate blood in their name. And they don't get the goodness. Obviously, if you are doing the donation, you get the goodness. But what they get is the side effect because they can see that you're doing something in their happiness. So they makes them happy. That happiness is their good karma from experiencing your goodness. Yeah, so they get that karma that way. Yeah, so they can see and feel that you're doing good things for them. Yeah, it makes them happier. When they're happy, they get reborn in a better destination.
Ajahn, I just want to clarify because our Chinese culture, we have this yearly event, ritual. There's a blur line between Taoism and Buddhism. And because, I'm a Buddhist, my mom is maybe. I don't know whether she's Buddhist or not. But, she carry on this tradition practice. As a Buddhist, we know that this is not right, but because of my duty as a daughter to her, should I follow? Because we always have this issue about this, and she thinks that, I'm not a good daughter because I don't follow, So it become very tense, this situation, wherever the Chi Koi come.
I would follow it. I would follow it because it makes her happy.
Yeah,
Not
that's
following,
right.
and it's not against Buddhism, because you're
Okay.
still doing acts of generosity.
Although I find it, yeah, because our forefather already passed on.
Sure.
By doing all this, I don't know what is the purpose.
But the purpose that if you do any, you make donations, you make
Is it for
offerings.
the living or for the pass
A
on?
lot of it's for the living. A lot of it's
Yeah.
for the living. You're thinking out of gratitude for your grandfather. You're thinking about his life in a good way. Yes, so you're remembering him in a good way.
So I think of it as for my benefit as well.
That's right, yeah.
It might not mean anything for the deceased.
That's right. They might be gone already, but it's good for you to think of others for the gratitude. My grandfather gave us this, brought your mother into place, and then he looked after your
So
mother.
it's not against Buddhist
No,
practice.
it's not against Buddhism in
Okay,
terms of those
thank you.
things. Yeah. And also out of duty, respect for your mother, that makes her happy when you do it, then you'd also do it. Yeah. Because you're not breaking the precept, you're not doing it against Buddhism in that way. Yeah, so there's no harm as long as you know why you're doing it. Yeah.
I think, Ajahn, people also ask when they do all this offering of all the food, the fruits, the food, they cook, the chicken, the pork, the whatever, do the deceased really, let's say they are born in the Peta world, do they really get to eat it and all that?
Sometimes they do. If they're still a ghost, they do. If they're still a ghost, then they can't take benefit. If they get reborn already, which is good, they don't need it. But on the off chance, the slight chance that they're still stuck in the ghost realm, then they can. They can take advantage of that. Then they're happy that you offer it to them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be once a year. Every time you throw out food, you say, any beings who can take advantage, please take advantage. Because sometimes there are a lot of hungry ghosts around just looking. They might not be your relative, but they're still looking for food. And you just dedicate anything you throw out, okay, may any beings around here, animals or anything else, please take advantage of that. Yes, you can always make that dedication anytime. It doesn't have to be a special day. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
We were just looking through some of the pictures of your monastery. A nice place. We're happy if you could bring some updated pictures the next time you come around. So it's up a dirt path. You have to drive up there. 4-wheel drive or what?
No, 2-wheel drive. 2-wheel drive, you can do 2-wheel. You just have to be careful, but it's 2-wheel drive.
2-wheel drive, come back with 1 wheel, huh? I always find it's interesting to visit some of the monasteries that are in this, but don't come back with a damaged car,
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is 60 kilometers inside of a national park. But it's very beautiful once you get there. Yeah, very, very peaceful. Yeah.
Okay, last question. No last question. We shall thank Ajahn and sure, going. Going. Michelle? No. You put up your hand. Okay, you moved your hand. Oh, it's a long last question.
That's right. It's a trick question. It's a trick question.
Story.
I have a summary. Yeah. Like my path to Buddhism, as some of you know, I was working in Bangkok and then came into contact. A friend of mine actually ordained as a monk for just 2 weeks. And he was just curious about what's like being a monk. So he's been to Thailand, he's an American, he's been to Thailand many times. So he's been to the beaches, the bars, so he's bored of that. So he wanted to do something different. So that's why I thought, I can become a monk for 2 weeks. He heard it from somewhere. So, but he's more of a spiritual tourist than really interest. So then, in this traditional Thai temple, you have to wake up early to do morning chanting, and it's in Pali and Thai. He didn't understand Pali or Thai, so clearly he was very bored. So that's why after a couple of days, he called me in there to keep him company. So that's my introduction to Buddhism, just go in there for the weekend, just to hang out with my friend, really. And then luckily I met a monk who explained to me what Buddhism is about. Mainly the 2 points he emphasized was meditation and the law of karma. And that for some reason kind of resonated with me, connected with me. I didn't believe, I grew up Catholic. I didn't believe that there was a God looking at, everything. It's like, well, why should he answer my prayer? There's a billion other people also praying for things. Why don't he listen to them? So I never understood that, God will answer my prayer. Especially, what if our prayers are in contradiction to each other? So I never kind of got over that kind of doubt. But I like the idea of the law of karma. It's a natural law that applies to everybody. Yeah, whether you believe or not, you do good things happen to you. When you do bad things, those things come back to haunt you. Whether anybody sees you, pays attention or not, doesn't matter. It applies. So I felt that's closer to my own personal belief, really.
How old were you then, Ajahn?
Huh?
How old were you then?
32.
32.
32 already, yeah. And then the thing that really got me, the kicker was that he told me that if you are a really good meditator, then you can see the future. And being a stockbroker, so I was like, yeah, okay, yes, I'm in, sign me up. So I was very dedicated, focused on the breathing, the breath, didn't let that go. Yeah, so it's more of my greed that got me into it. Maybe my sense that that's how to get me to be interested in meditation was to sell it in this way. Yeah. But when I started meditating, I feel more peaceful. So then when you're peaceful, you don't need much anything else. So the wealth and the power and all that, the ambition, kind of fade away. Yeah, I wasn't so interested in it. Yeah, but I wasn't a traditional Buddhist in that way, that I want to become a monk and be a monk for the rest of my life. I was just to be a monk and to see. It's more of an experiment out of curiosity. And with anything, if what I'm doing feels good, feels right, then there's no need to change it. Stock market will always be there. If I want to change my mind, go out there and do that. But at the moment, there's no need to change what I'm doing. I find a sense of fulfillment, being a monk, offering some teachings, offering a place for people to come and practice. Yeah, so to me that is a major blessing. Like I always remind people, that's amazing, a great blessing for all of us to be practicing the Buddhist teaching. 2,600 years since the Buddha passed away, in a land completely different from him, that we still can practice the Buddhist teaching, whether it's in Singapore here, or in the forest in Australia, forest in Thailand, or in the forest in America. It's amazing that we can still practice the same type of Buddhism, very close to it, that the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago. Yeah, so something that is not to be taken for granted, something to be focused on, something to be cherished. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. Let's say 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, thank you for your questions and comments and feedback.
Yes. We have asked Ajahn to come over any time that he's passing by Singapore.
That's right. So anything that I said that was useful, that was helpful, please remember, take it, apply it to your life, and for it to bring more peace and compassion to your life. Anything that I said that was annoying, irritating, and you felt that was wrong, or any complaints you might have, then you go to Eileen for that, okay? Okay, then. We'll
Ajahn, before we ask for blessings, I'll share merits. Maybe ask for your forgiveness for anything we have caused you for any uneasiness or irritation at our actions, our words or thought. Please forgive us whether we have done it intentionally or unintentionally.
Yes, I forgive you.
Thank you, Ajahn.
And likewise, like I said, my intention is to help, to encourage, to inspire. But if it's something I said that was unmindful, that caused you any suffering, please also forgive me for that.
Yes, Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Since there are a few new comers for this afternoon, we'd like to do the sharing of merits again and ask Ajahn to do a short blessing. Let us share our merits with all sentient beings. Etta vata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Etta vata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Etta vata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Let us share our quiet merits with our departed relatives and friends. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo.
Yatha varivaha pura paripurantu sagarang evamewa ito dinang petanang upakapati ititang patitang tumhang kipamewa samijatu sabbe parentu sankapa chando panaraso yatha Mani joti yaso yata sabitiyo vivajantu sabarogo vinasatu mate bhavat vantarayo sukhi diga yuko bhava abhivadana sile sanicang vudapachayino chataro dhamma vadante Ayuwano sukhang balang.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.